well enough. And I'll swear it was an oak tree that had to be growing up through the middle of my spine, because I never did get much sleep. But we had the gun right beside us, between us, and we had a flashlight. And the tent was a good tent, and it had window with a flap that you pulled a cord and the flap rolled up, and there was a screen over it. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, both you and I were wakened, and we heard something outside. I said, "By God, John, that's a bear. We'd better protect ourselves." So I grabbed the gun, and I grabbed the flashlight. Well, the flashlight was perfectly cylindrical. The button was, I reached around until I found the button. And I aimed the flashlight out the window so that I could aim it straight at that bear that was right out there. Pushed the button, and my face lit up. Whatever it was that was out there.
I could see you.
It just got more frightened than we were. Off it went. And I don't know whether it was a bear or porcupine or whatever it was. But we never did find out. But we never went on from there up to Twin Lake. We were so bushed and so thankful of a sleepless night's sleep that by the time we got our way back and down this set of dams that the beavers had set up, got back to the car and got home, you and I were dead tired. Now I was an army man and in pretty damn good physical shape, but I'll tell you, I was dead beat, and you were even deader beat.
You know, you've talked about Loon Lake and I've talked about control. I remember one summer when we went up there, and you had mounted on the roof of the cottage a loudspeaker.
Well, that was on Sports Day.
That's right. And you want to talk about controlling the entire environment of Loon Lake. You had Wimoway playing.
Yeah.
After Sports Day. The water was perfectly calm. You could hear, if somebody was talking on the far side of the lake, you could hear them. And you were playing music to the entire community.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Sports Day played a big role in the life of Loon Lake.
Oh, it did.
Tell us about some of the canoe, the Duncan Memorial Race, the Duncan Camp.
The Duncan Trophy, which was from the sandbar, which was a mile and a half from the main beach. And it was a two-man canoe race. And you had your canoe beached, and when the whistle rang, or blew, you had to go and grab your canoe, launch it, and you know the sandbar had very, very gently sloping shelf, so that you could run for 50 feet, 100 feet, 100 yards in some places, out before you had to launch your canoe, jump in, and start paddling. The record for that race was set the first year it was ever run, and it was your Uncle Jack Flatt and a fellow by the name of Sargent. And they had practiced and practiced on the Cam River, and they had a racing canoe. And they had it following wind. The year I won it, with Hugh O'Leary, Hugh, who is perhaps the greatest athlete the lake had ever produced. Hugh and I used an ordinary canoe, not a racing canoe at all. In fact, we tried to get the steward's canoe, which was next best thing to a racing canoe, but the stewards had someone else using it. So we used an old canvas-bottomed, pot-bellied canoe, and we were into raging headwind. And we almost broke Uncle Jack's record by only a few seconds. In fact, some of the professional boatmen, like Tony Oakland and his partner, who was also a pro, they dropped out of the race. They couldn't take it. Hugh O'Leary and I came within 2 or 3 seconds of beating Uncle Jack's record, and it's been one of my lifelong regrets that the wind was against us that day. Because if we had had just a calm day, or a following wind like Uncle Jack had, I'd hold the record with you, Larry, for the best time on that Duncan Memorial Drive. Sports Day was a very special day at the lake. There is the water sports, which were held one day, and the land sports, which were held on another day. And the land sports were all held on the playground area, which was right at the back of our cottage, which was all Duncan property. Grandpa owned all that property and gave it. We've given that to the Loon Lake Campers Association. That was all ours. And there was sack races, there were three-legged races, there was sprints from all ages, there was nail driving contests, and I don't know whether you remember them, but Nick, I can't think of his last name, used to demonstrate driving a 4-inch spike into a log barehanded. You'd put the spike in his hand and bang like that, and that spike would go that deep into the log. Your mother was pretty darn good, because I've got pictures on our old video cassette of your mother going bang 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 and beating Auntie Marion by, well, she did it in half the time that Auntie Marion took. So we had the water sports, which included tub races, where you got in a wash tub. You had to be about 3 or 4 years of age. And Mama would always be there to make sure you didn't swamp following you. And that would be for about 25 feet, where you sit in the wash tub and paddle like that, and first thing you knew, you sank. But and there were gunnel races, and there were single canoe, and there were double canoes, there was single rowing and double rowing, there was swimming, there was diving, there were all these things. And you spoke about the loudspeaker, and well, I set that up, and I would announce the results of each of the races in there, and in between times I'd put some music on. And some of that music, I admit, was pretty darn good, and that was, for its day, pretty darn good audio equipment. So much for Sports Day there. Episodes at Loon Lake. Gosh, there's so many of them, it's almost impossible to pick one particular one out, except accomplishments at Loon Lake that everyone had to do was swim across the lake. And I swam across the lake mostly on my back. I was the object of some ridicule, but forgiven because I had broken my arm that summer. And that was used as a bit of excuse, although it's a poor excuse because it really wasn't the reason. I just couldn't swim, crawl, or even side stroke for any great length of time without the rest that comes with swimming on your back. And I could go almost any distance on my back, but I was no long distance swimmer. You got it? In my second year at Harvard, I was rooming with Guy Davis Briggs from Flint, Michigan. The Briggs Body Manufacturing Company. They owned the Detroit Tigers. They owned the Detroit Stadium. They owned half of Detroit and half of Flint, Michigan.